It always comes to this. More nice shit. Hello there guys, back again to do another tattoo progress update. Where I last left off, I'd had these roses done on my neck obviously, and prior to that I had the hand and outer bicep rose done. We used 4 different colors, so that we did the turquoise blue with white, and light blue was blue sky I believe it's called, and we used pretty purple and really red. And the red has this kind of like dark kind of burnt or rusty sort of red to it. It's more of it's even darker than the red velvet over black, but I think that wouldn't be the case if we were to do a second pass. But I actually like the red that comes out, so and I expect it to darken even more as time goes on, because first passes of color on black are not incredibly saturated, and they're obviously going to mix with the black as time goes on. Especially the first pass tends to darken more than additional passes. With that said, we got a really good heal here. So I've actually had people ask me if I have UV light ink in here or some kind of glow in the dark ink, because they had the light blue and purple working together has such a kind of 3D / glowy kind of look to it that it just really pops off the neck. And then when you couple that with the turquoise blue that we used around it, it's just good color theory. It just pops everything out, and you can achieve those sorts of effects if you're using colors correctly together. I did have a version of that with the neck roses, I think, even with the black and gray variant of it, the white and black on black version of it. That's just, there's a lot of light playing like off of one another. So Rick originally laid these roses out, for example, on my neck and on my hand, and they're a bit different than the roses that Terry laid out. Terry likes to work in bigger needle groupings and bigger areas than Rick does, and so Rick puts little things in. Like you can see all these little spots that you can't get into with an 11 mag, for example. And Terry does not like using 7 mags, so he had to get in there with Rick's grouping of choice, the 7 mag. And whenever he has to do that, he hates it, because he hates using 7 mags for anything but, oddly enough, lining. Terry doesn't love 7 mags, but this is the thing. Different artists like using different tools. When I was working with Lee, if it couldn't be done with a 27 mag, he wasn't that into it. And Rick prefers smaller groupings, and then Terry's kind of middle of the row with 11s and 15s, but he is quite taken with a 49 mag as well, because he got into doing blackout. Because of the work that he's done on me, he's become a fairly popular black worker. Around here especially, it's like I can't think of anybody that really posts it, and so people don't really know where to go. And it's because though a lot of people can do that work, they don't want to be doing it every day, and if they're posting it, then the idea is that they're going to end up having it at their doorstep quite often. And so I think it's quite deliberate that people don't promote that they like doing it. Whereas if you go to Terry's page, I think he's got at Terry's Tattoos on Instagram, I think he's got my back blackout pinned to the top of his page, and right in his little blurb on his bio it says black and gray and blackout. So he's definitely open to doing black work. I think being that he's more of a technical tattooer, not to say that he isn't an artist, but he leads with the technical side of things. I think that doing these sorts of projects are very interesting for him. And it's been a match made in heaven to some degree. So with that said, I'll just show it off here. You see that this one has less red in it than this one, and that's just the way that the roses were built. There was naturally more light source in this one than there was in this one. So you have more of the purple over here, more red over here. And then you end up with things contrasting differently. I like that they're both a little bit different. These roses were never the same, but they look more different now that we put color into them than they did when they were white and black on black, because they'll have different various amounts of each color, in that they aren't exactly the same. With all that said, I had a fairly small session with Rick this week. It's almost not worth mentioning, but everything that he and I do now on this sleeve is like, it makes a difference. It doesn't really matter that it wasn't a huge session, and I don't expect them all to be, especially being that I already know what I'm getting with Rick. It's like, it's never really that disappointing when he calls an early day, but there's no harm that he can do to this sleeve at this point. So we just did this in here, and I think there's a little bit over here done. Maybe that red in the jaw area there, the gum of the teeth. Did not do the teeth. He shaves my whole arm every time, and it's always like, we're not gonna do the whole thing. So I don't know why we're shaving the whole arm, but oddly enough, the shave from Rick is the most intimidating part of the process, because as I explain of him all the time to people who ask me, is Rick heavy-handed? And it's like, no, he's not heavy-handed during the session, but his mannerisms around the session are heavy. So he's quite firm with people. He likes the dry wipe, he's aggressive when he's shaving. He doesn't hurt you more than you need to be hurt during the tattoo, though. Like, it's interesting. He's got a very light hand when tattooing, but just his general mannerisms and behaviors around people are a little more aggressive than I would think they need to be. But I think when you're tattooing for as long as he is, it becomes a very no nonsense and very direct and just straight to the point and no fucking around. And people, they like to move around a lot and jitter, and I think that the longer you tattoo, the more forceful you might become to try and combat that, or assertive, we'll say. So, for example, when he was tattooing my neck, when he originally laid out the neck roses, I probably had Rick tattoo my neck 5 times, I would say. And anytime he did, it's like, real good stretch, but it's less the tattoo that's sore at the end of it and more your fucking neck or your shoulder in general. So it's a real treat being, tattooed by him sometimes. With that said, I still, obviously I enjoy working with him to a large degree, because I've been doing it. I've been working with him for, close to 20 years on and off. But there are differences in different artists that you work with. Not just in the way that the style that they do, but also their approach to tattooing and how they tattoo. It all changes person to person. It's definitely not one size fits all. So I think the intention was for Rick to do all of this stuff in here, this whole chunk. It's never like we're setting out to conquer the moon, though I will say this is all healed up in here now, this part and back here. So it is a pretty good result now, being we're on the second and third passes for most of this. It's any little bit that we do is semi-final, because I do think that everything will get a big highlight / touch-up run at the end. That'll probably be a handful of sessions on its own, but this second and third pass that we're doing will be the bulk of the return. So the first pass was basically laying the groundwork for the project, and then when you come in for the additional passes over everything, that's when you get to make everything nice, especially with something this detailed, where all of these things are going to pop more and more as time goes on. When we get down into this stuff, for example, and we can get it all up to this level, this is my proof of concept for what you can achieve, the level of detail and color mixing and blends and different tones and textures that you can get over black are not more limited than they are on negative space. It's just that it will take you a longer period. But that doesn't mean that you're more limited. I've had people assert that you can only do certain things over blackout, but it's just not the case. You can do whatever you want. There's no limiter on that. The only limiter is actually just your patience and maybe your wallet. And since I've had so many people ask me still, how much I paid and all that, and then you'll have people who go, oh, well, he probably doesn't pay. It's like, no, I do still pay. I still pay. Every session I pay. Terry doesn't ask me to pay. I pay him because I'm not going to have him work on me for free. Although it's done wonders for his career working on me. It's changed his books to be involved with me because even when we started, I was already a household name in this industry for a very long time. So when Terry started working on me, he had a different gravitational pull or appeal to clientele, and a different clientele in general. He's got more interesting projects, to say the very least, since starting working on me. But also it's given him a boost to his confidence. Whereas with Rick was very well established before having anything to do with me. That's definitely not, there's no doubt about that. He was actually at one point before he had a motorcycle accident in his younger years, he was booked out for 2 years. But he never wants that again because rescheduling 2 years of clients is not what anyone wants to be doing. So, but with that said, when Terry and I started working together, it was still where there were weeks when he only had a couple appointments, and now it's pretty hard to get in with Terry on a regular basis because his books have started filling up with projects from, farther away and stuff like this. And whereas I don't like booking projects like this for Rick because they take so long, and you might just turn up having an hour-long session after you've come so far to see him. Terry will do bigger chunks, so you will get some kind of a product in one shot, whether it's finished in one or not. You'll have some level of completion that you can be happy with if you come to see him from afar. Whereas Rick's method, even working at its full potential, say he did put in the 3 or 4 hours that he does sometimes, it's the layering process that takes ages. And this sleeve can't happen in a session, no matter how long the session is, because everything has to be built up. And we can't guarantee that product to someone who's traveling from, a couple thousand miles away in some cases. And it is that way in some cases. At least with Terry, you'll get something done that's vaguely resembles a product, and this is not a diss to Rick. It's obviously I've been working with him for a long time. It's just I don't feel comfortable bringing people from that far away and telling them it's going to be 20 to 50 sessions or whatever the fuck. This is session 41, so it just is what it is. So theoretically, our next session will be doing in here again, and I'm actually excited about that. Maybe we'll get into this nose area, the place that people say looks like a vagina. I've never seen a vagina that looks like that. Maybe I'm with the wrong women. I don't know. My wife, doesn't have one of those. But people see what they see in work, I guess. I frequently see penises and things. Some people must just frequently see vaginas and things. Anyway, theoretically, we'll be doing this chunk in here. And the most I would say that we would do would be from here to here based on how Rick works, but we could do even less than that. In either case, we're still somewhere on par for what I expected at between 60 and 80 sessions. And I said that knowing both the project at hand and also the way that Rick works, is that built in some inconsistencies in the amount of time per session. For example, this week we probably worked for less than an hour. It was probably close to an hour, whereas the week prior we did like 2.5, 3. So there's some inconsistency accounted for in that estimation. If I were to have done this sleeve with Terry, it wouldn't have been this sleeve. It would have been a bolder, less detailed version of it. But even then, it probably would have taken between 20 to 40 sessions is what I would estimate. I make these kinds of guesses and estimations based off of their working habits, and not just on me, but in general. You're around an artist long enough, you tend to know how they put things together and the way that they achieve their goals and stuff like this, and it gives you a realistic forecast for what your future working with them might be like. And so in saying that, I took this project on knowing that there would be days like this. With that all said, I have a session coming up with Terry today. We're going to be getting into the thorns kind of all over this arm, and if we get that done quick enough, and I think I might actually touch this guy up, because though it's good, it's in there, the red needs work and so does the white, and I want to make the black shading a bit darker, so we might get that today too. I think that's only like 20 minutes of work, but if we don't get it this week, then we'll get it the following week when we come back to do the thorns on my neck and stuff. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day.